I, 40 male, have been married to Holly, 38 female, for 12 years. Things have always been okay in our marriage. We have 2 children, we live in a good city, we have comfortable jobs, and generally, I just assumed that we were both really happy with one another. I assumed that I was wrong that we were both happy because I can't reconcile her being happy and still deciding to cheat on me. It's just not something that works out in my head. I didn't even have to do anything special to find out about the affair. It was pure luck. I was out in our front yard in the evening one weekend. I went out with the kids because I felt like they had spent too much time indoors in front of screens. While they were playing around, I was sitting on the front porch. The road was quiet, which is why I noticed when a car drove up in the distance. It stopped quite some distance from our house, and then it drove by some time later. About a minute or two after, Holly showed up. That was weird to me, because there was no reason for her to walk up to the house instead of being dropped off right in front of the house. I asked her right away why she was on foot, and she mumbled some excuse about how the Uber got the location wrong. I told her that I had taken Uber enough to know that their driving 3 houses down would never be a massive issue. She claimed that she didn't want to make a big deal of it with the driver, since he was already proving to be a jerk, so she just saved herself the headache. I pointed out that the driver still drove down past the house anyway. If he had U-turned, it would have made more sense, but he didn't. She just mumbled again, acting like she didn't know why I was asking those questions. I asked her who dropped her off, and she maintained that it was an Uber driver. I noticed that she was acting shifty, and that was exactly why I didn't believe her. So I made it clear that I didn't. I told her that she was going to have to tell me the truth, but she maintained that she was, and she told me I was being dramatic and making a big deal out of nothing. I told her that I wasn't too afraid to get camera footage from the neighbors to make out the license plate and figure out who the person was. She said I was crazy, and I was acting insecure. I agreed that I was being insecure, and told her that she could fix everything right away by showing me the Uber app on her phone. She refused. I made a little fuss to try and get her phone out of her hands, and she entirely refused to let me have it. At that point, I was entirely sure that whoever had dropped her off was a man that she didn't want me to know about. I was so mad. I told the kids to go back into the house and watch TV, and they did that happily. It was just me and her left outside. She tried to walk inside, but I blocked her off. She complained that the neighbors would see, and I said that I didn't give a crap. I wanted her to answer me and tell me who had dropped her off because I could already tell what was going on from the moment that she refused to show me the Uber app. She told me that she would talk, but she wanted us to go to the bedroom. She absolutely refused to say anything until I agreed, so I did. She kept her word, and when we got to the bedroom, she sat on the bed, and I noticed that her eyes were already watering up, like she was about to start crying. I told her that she could start speaking. She gave it one more chance, trying to claim that I had everything all wrong, but I told her that she needed to stop the stupid act and tell the truth, because it was clear that there was another man involved, and I was quickly losing patience with her, the more she played around with me. Finally, after way too much silence, she said, "There's someone else." Immediately after she said it, she started crying. Normally, her crying would instantly put me into husband mode, but in this case, she looked so ugly doing it and it was irritating me. I needed her to say more because I wasn't even sure that I had understood her right. I told her to explain, and she told me that there was another man and she had been seeing him. She said it was just a thing for fun and that she never meant to hurt me, and then a lot more crying. It took me a long time to get the whole story out of her, but I did eventually. The guy, Jesse, was someone she had met at an event that she had taken our kids to. He was a single father, and he was there with his own child. They had gotten to talking, the way parents always talk at those kinds of events, and she felt really bad for him when he talked about what had happened with his wife. Apparently, she died. He had begun struggling with loneliness, and he found that attending those kids' events with his daughter was a way for him to get out and feel less lonely. Apparently, his sob story, whether it was true or not, had tugged at her heartstrings strongly enough for my foolish wife to choose to be the one to make him feel less lonely. The play date that she had told me she was going on with our children was to his house. And even though she didn't want to say it, I pressed her until she admitted that they had sex on that occasion. They had slept together while the kids were unsupervised in the living room. The whole thing was just getting worse the more questions I asked her. They had slept a few more times, though she couldn't say how many times. She swore that it was less than 10 because they had only been at it for a few months. I asked her how she had even had time to sneak away and cheat on me that many times in a few months. She had nothing to say. I asked her if she felt any remorse. She claimed that she did. I asked her if she was ever going to stop it on her own before I ended up catching her. She hesitated, but said that she knew that it was going to end at some point, which I didn't really consider to be an answer. I asked her if she would ever have admitted the affair to me if I hadn't caught her. She said yes, but obviously I'm not a fool. I didn't believe that, and I told her. I had backed her against a wall. The moment she realized that the app on her phone would prove she was lying, she couldn't think up a lie fast enough. She knew she had no choice but to confess, probably hoping that it'd earn her some forgiveness. I told her that there was no forgiveness in me. I hated the concept of cheating, and she knew that. Why was I meant to forgive someone who I had been with for 12 years, yet who still felt like there was no big deal surrounding cheating on me? She tried to defend herself in the midst of tears, claiming that she knew there was a big deal and she knew it was wrong. But the fact that she thought she was helping Jesse was what allowed her to start in the first place. She took accountability for the fact that she had let it go on for so long, but she tried to paint the genesis of the whole thing as some kind of charitable act. I asked her if she'd do the same for a lonely hobo, and she looked mad. I told her that they were lonely too, and if she was trying to do charity, that would have been a good place to start. I told her that the reason why she wouldn't do it for a hobo was that she found Jesse attractive. That wasn't a crime, but as a wife, she was meant to have self-control, and that was where she failed. Everything she said about him being lonely was just as an excuse. At the end of the day, she slept with him because he was attractive, and everything else was her forming an excuse around that. She didn't bother defending herself after I said that. Instead, she went straight into the "I'm sorry" pattern. She kept saying it over and over as if it was meant to make me instantly forgive her. Instead, it was just annoying me more and more. I told her that she didn't have to say anything else. I made it clear that I was going to be sleeping in the guest bedroom, and we'd figure out things in the morning. I thought I noticed her brighten up when I said that, but I corrected her that when I said "figure out," it had nothing to do with us moving on from this. It was clear that there was likely no moving on from what she had done. She started crying even more. She went on her knees and started begging, but I just shook my head and left the room. I was so infuriated, I had to go and sit with my children in the living room to calm myself down. They were watching cartoons, and it sort of took my mind out of the situation with my wife, though obviously I recognized how significantly my life had just changed. So it wasn't something that I could completely erase from my awareness. She didn't come out of the room at all the whole night. I even had to check on her in the middle of the night because I wanted to make sure that she hadn't done something stupid to herself, which thankfully she hadn't. It was the next morning, when it came time to get the kids ready for school, that she emerged from the room. She looked really pathetic, as if she'd been crying for a long time. She tried to act chummy with me, but I rebuffed her pretty harshly, because we weren't friends anymore, and I wasn't going to let her act like we were. Since then, we've still lived together, but I've been sleeping in the guest room. I've basically moved all my essentials there. I know the divorce is the next step. I've spoken to a lawyer, and while I haven't pulled the trigger yet, I know it is going to happen. We're going to have to talk to our kids soon, which is something that I'm not looking forward to at all. Regardless, it's not something that can be escaped. I don't know what to say or how anyone can prevent this kind of thing from happening to them. A cheating partner can't be controlled. If they want to cheat, they will. It's a luck-based thing, so you just have to cross your fingers that the person you choose to spend the rest of your life with will never do that kind of thing to you. The real kicker? Your wife's idea that cheating is charitable. I helped a lonely man feel better about his life. That's a new one. She made your life a living hell while trying to spin it as doing something good. If she had any real remorse, she wouldn't be building narratives to justify her cheating. She'd be taking responsibility and leaving quietly. You've recognized the next step. Take it. Update. I thought it was only right that I came to provide an update to the story of my cheating wife after writing that first post. I'm happy to say that the divorce has been finalized, and I think this entire saga with my ex-wife is finally over. There's a lot to talk about. I had Holly served with the divorce papers while we were both at home together. To be honest, as much as she ruined my life by destroying the happiness that I thought we had cultivated, I won't say that what I felt for her was hate. I just didn't love her any longer. I didn't feel the need to embarrass her by having her served at work or in public, so I simply had the person come to our house and hand her the papers. She looked heartbroken. She came to me saying, "Please," with tears pouring down her face. I told her that I had already thought about it well enough, and there really wasn't any chance that I was going to forgive her and move on from it. She just needed to be far away from me, and we'd exist peacefully as co-parents, but she wasn't going to get anything more than that from me. She cried and cried, but I tuned her out. We eventually had to talk to our kids, which was very uncomfortable for me. Neither of them is even 10 yet, but we had to explain why Mom and Dad weren't going to be living in the same house anymore, and it killed me. The older one knew what divorce was and started crying, and the younger one, without even fully comprehending, started crying too. I hated that moment so much, and it was all simply because of my wife not being able to control herself. It's hard to express how helpless I felt in that moment. When the divorce actually came around, I tried to get us to agree to terms, but I assume her lawyer had told her that there was no point in simply letting things go easily. So, things dragged on, as much as I was ready for an amicable split. I really hate the drawn-out, painful process of divorce, but she wanted that because she wanted to make sure she could milk me completely in the split. In the end, we had to go in front of the judge, and let's just say that things really did not work in my favor. I got to keep the house, which was probably my only major win. Custody was split down the middle, as expected, as were our summed up finances. I lost out because I've been earning more than her for ages. On top of that, I need to pay alimony and child support. I'm pretty much getting nothing that wasn't already mine. Just so you know, she came out of the divorce with close to $100,000 when her cut from the house and her savings were all considered. That wasn't a small bit of money for her to start her new life with. It felt like I had been robbed in the split. Now, this is the part of the story where I nearly lost my mind. It took about 2 months after the divorce for Holly to tell me that she wanted to speak to me on a day when I casually came to pick up the kids. I went into it expecting that she was going to try to beg for us to give a shot again. But it was even worse than that. She asked me if she could get a loan of $200 from me. I asked her why she needed to borrow money from me when she came out a lot richer by the end of the divorce. She said that there were some issues with accessing the money, but as soon as she could, she would make sure to pay me back. Because I knew her well-being had its own impact on her kids, I decided to help her out, especially because it was just a loan. Well, I never got that money back in the end because I found out that the truth had nothing to do with her money having issues being accessible. She told me that things had happened to the money, and she really needed my help. She said that she quit her job, and things hadn't been easy. I asked her why she quit when she had a good job. She claimed that she had to stay at home to take care of the kids. I told her that she only had them half of the time. I also pointed out that I had a job too, and that didn't affect me when they were at my place, because I always got a babysitter to take care of the hours before I got back from work. I told her that she couldn't even act like affording a babysitter was the problem, since she had just had a major windfall. She just mumbled in response, and I told her that she would have to be seriously explain how a mostly untaxed $100,000 just vanished. I made it clear that it would take some really stupid spending for the money to disappear that quickly. That was when she chose to explain how the money had vanished. She had made some investments with the windfall, and those didn't go well. She also bought herself a truck, which had burned through half of her payout in an instant. She paid for it in cash because she thought it was a flex and the sensible decision. I won't have to worry about the car note. She had also helped out a friend who was in a tough spot, who I discovered was Jesse. I couldn't find out how much she had given him. She absolutely refused to say, so I know it must have been a lot. I asked her why, after spending that much, she felt like she had the financial liberty to quit her job. She just mumbled. My assumption is that Jesse probably claimed he'd take care of her or something, because I want to think that she's too smart to just throw away her job like that. Or maybe she considered the alimony and child support to be enough for her to live on comfortably. I pointed out that I was paying her alimony, so I wasn't in any kind of rush to save her from the mess she was in, since she'd get my money every month anyway, whether I liked it or not. She kept begging, so I eventually told her that I was just going to think about it, so it was better for her not to waste her breath in that moment. When she reached out to me about a week later, asking if I had thought about helping her, I told her that I had, and I would, but she had to come over to the house. Here's the thing. I would have let her off easy, but I was mad. I was really mad at how stupidly she had spent the money, and the fact that she was trying to make it my problem again, despite the fact that the money had been taken from me in the first place. I knew that I wasn't going to give her a dime. So when she came, I got straight into it. I let her know that there was no way I was going to help her out unless she begged me. She seemed shocked, but she could see I wasn't joking. She told me that she had already been begging, but I told her she needed to beg more. She got on her knees and started to beg me to help her out. She said that she was sorry for everything that she had done that led to that point, but she needed my help. She said that she had been stupid with money, and she just needed a one-time infusion to help her get back on her feet. I took my sweet time in giving her an answer, because the longer I went on, the better it made me feel. In the entire divorce saga, I hadn't once chosen to make her look or feel bad, but I was glad that I finally did, because she deserved it. Without me even saying anything, she held onto my legs as she was begging, and I could see that she had started crying. After it had gone on long enough, I stood up, went to go and pick up my phone from where I had propped it up, recording, and I told her that I wasn't going to give her anything. "What?" was the first thing she said, because she couldn't believe that there would be any reason why I wouldn't help her after all of that. I told her that she had made a mess of my life, and that was just the little I could do to feel better about myself. She started crying even more. She looked like a child. She was humiliated and angry. She balled up her fists as if she wanted to hit me. I told her to give it a shot and laughed. If she had done it, I wouldn't have held back from retaliating. She said that I was a piece of crap and that she hated me. I let her know that I hated her too. She told me if I posted that video, she'd kill me. I just laughed at that. I didn't have plans to post it. I still haven't, but maybe I will one day to test out that threat. She stormed out of my house, but before she did, she tried to toss a little metal ornament at the TV, but she missed. I laughed even more, and she genuinely looked like she would have shot me if she had a weapon. In the end, she left in her truck that she's too superficial to sell, and since then, I've only seen her when dropping off or picking up the kids. I've lost too many years of my life in that marriage. I don't think I'm going to give serious relationships another try. Not after this. But who knows? Maybe the future will bring something that I don't expect. She had the audacity to kneel and beg you for money after all she did, after all she took, after all the chaos she caused. And you just stood there and let her look like the pathetic fool she is. Absolute perfection. Honestly, the mental image of her crying, balled fists, throwing things, storming out, and looking utterly humiliated, I can't think of anything better. What do you make of this? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today on Our Space. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time. And please put your chair back where you found it.